Morning traders, welcome to the pre-market analysis that we open to the public every single Wednesday via YouTube. Thanks for joining us this morning. Going to give you a little bit of a breakdown on what's going to happen this morning before I pass it over to Beth. So once I'm done here, Beth will pop on. She's going to be going through the macro environment, any news events that are going to be occurring today or that happen over the course of the evening that we need to be aware of, as well as going through the bigger picture items, the ETFs, commodities, etc., that make sense to be looking at the time. After that's done, I'm going to come back on. We're going to be going through the individual names that I'm looking at that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll talk about the news associated with those gap up, gap downs, as well as go through the SPY, the FANG, the VIX, the Qs, and the IWM. Once that is done, Selbridge will come on going through the analyst calls he's looking at for today, macro environment as well, and anything that we need to be aware of from a money flow standpoint. And then we'll look at or doing a quick little recap of what I talked about this morning. After that's done, we'll be ready to go. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Beth, and I will talk to you guys a little bit shortly. Beth, if you're ready, it's all yours.
I am indeed, sir. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome pre-market here Wednesday morning. Very important week for us with CPI, PPI, and the Fed minutes. Lots to digest. It's going to be a fun one. I mean, this whole week has been amazing in terms of range. That's all we care about. I mean, it's just been amazing. So we shall see how things progress. You know my narrative. My narrative has been and continues to be. I think we're going to have a bear market rally, not just, intraday sort of thing. There's going to be catalyst or catalysts that will allow that to happen. I mean, these extensions are really quite something, but, look, it's day by day, right? You can't, look, it's Keynesian rule number 101, okay? You can't pick a top in a bull market, and you should never pick a bottom in a bear market. We take it day by day and intraday and see what Spartan, who is a master technician, shouts out to us. Okay, so what happened overnight? We did get some numbers out of Japan, better than expected, interestingly, except for machinery orders. Year over year, yeah, but month over month. Oh my goodness gracious, yeah. Okay, motorbike sales in Indonesia. The 30-year JG. Look, the Japan Central Bank is doing this for decades. They keep their interest rates low and they accumulate all stock, their own stock. That's never going to ever change anytime soon. They live on an island, okay? It's just, it's really sad to see, because when I was starting in the market, this is late 70s, the Japanese were just like, they were buying all the property out there. They basically created a bubble, and that's when the bad things started to happen. We did have a EU energy meeting and stuff coming out of Russia saying that with the Nordstrom, they can start doing it if it's safe, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. Okay, so the bomb that dropped yesterday, and I didn't think this would happen, Bank of England basically said they're stopping what they're doing in terms of on the intervention side, in terms of liquidity. Then this morning, they come out and say, well, guess what? We're going to do the mother of all intervention in November. Now, don't forget, eventually, this is going to be the penultimate quantitative easing in history, okay? When you talk about the UK, okay? It's just going to be like beyond what we've seen. So eventually, and the same thing's probably going to happen in Europe, eventually, the narrative is going to be, we know when the world is settling down is when you start to see kick-ass money flowing into the UK and the European markets, okay? GDP out of the UK was, as this was way worse, right? Balance of trade. Look, they got problems here, friends. I mean, construction output was way better than expected. This is goods, trades, and balances, worse than expected. Way worse than, look at this, industrial production, and then month over month, they expected -5. Everything out of the UK is screaming, they're going to have a financial collapse. I mean, I hate to say this, but I mean, this is not playing chicken here. This is reality. And I think what the central bank is figuring out, okay, what exactly are we going to do here? Okay, so this was, anyways, industrial production, way better out of the European area, and both the month over month and year over year. 5-year Treasury gilt option, look at this. The Bund mortgages. This is criminal. If you look in terms of what the spread between the 30-year and the 30-year mortgages, this is the highest it's been. Okay, the spread, it's just absolutely positively stunningly criminal what's going on right now. All right. We'll see. Applications are down. Okay, this was Pill who basically came out this morning and said that November, watch out, be there, be square. Okay, so here we have, as you all know, our friends. Look at this industrial production. This is not what you would expect. Inflation. This is crazy. All out of India. Wow. Monthly GDP tracker. PPI, my friends. Let's do it. So to be honest with you, I have no idea what this market wants. Okay. I don't know. I just don't know. So what's the narrative? The narrative is bad news, good action. That's what the narrative is, right? Or good news, bad action. I can't tell you. I don't have a crystal ball. This is very, very, very important. The WASD is coming out. Okay. I always look at this to see what it says. This is important on the agricultural side. If you are not aware of what it is, it's the Global Agricultural Report. You gotta, if you're doing in agricultural commodities, you got to take a peek at that. And we do have a 10-year auction. Let's see how that works out. And then, okay, we don't have a lot of Fed heads, but we do get the FOMC minutes. Now, this is backward looking. There's no question about it. The only thing that would move the market would be if it's way hawkish. But I don't know how you get more hawkish than this Fed right now. I can't imagine. We'll just see. Okay, I don't know. And then we got the this afternoon in Bowman, yada, 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 yada. Okay, let's see what our friends are saying here at Earnings Whisper. Okay, early on, right? So we were way negative last week, and now we're above expectations. Talk about Pepsi. Oh my God. I wanted to do it. I didn't do it. So what I did was I bought a lot of XLP calls because I love that company, right? And then you can see next week is the golden week, right? So anyways, let's see. Well, this tells you all you need to know. So we have Thursday morning, right? And then Friday morning, right? Lots of stuff. So here's Thursday, and then we have the banks, right? So we got a lot of stuff coming out, BlackRock. So that now officially we start the earnings season tomorrow. Okay. All right. Positive guidance so far in October, and the ratio compared in past October, we call it a ratio just because it's harder to fit the word percentage in the little box. We calculate by ignoring, okay? So you can see here how this looks, right? So for October going forward, this is not what you would call, you do have peaks, right? But you have a lot of negative stuff going on. I have no idea. Okay, but you know, we can only focus on what we can focus on, and obviously that is right now the technicals. I focus on the macros longer term. So I have been accumulating into my account some of the semis, right? And we'll see how it plays out. I got some AMD, I've got some NVIDIA. I've been accumulating a little bit. I got a little TNA. I got a little bit, the FANG looks horrible, okay? But you can see Pepsi just, you know, every quarter, this company is just brilliant. I just love this company. Okay. National Day was before, so Eunice is not saying much, right? Here's Carolyn Borden, right? She's the Fibonacci. I like Robert Miner because he doesn't post as much, number one, and he does the bigger picture, which I really kind of like, right? So, where are we? So we had a timing cycle on the 11th. Right, which was yesterday. And then we have a price cycle coming in the 12th and 13th. Now, if we have a spike today, these actually can be left translated. So a left translation is it goes like this and down. Right translated means it goes like this, okay? Right translated, see? It's the complete opposite. I don't know, just telling you what's going on. This, to me, says it all. Wait till this loads up. Central bank assets. When I tell you that these central banks basically have a shit pot full of stocks on their balance sheet, will you take a look at the G7? Look at this breadth of that. In Japan, basically, this is all their own equity, okay? This, guess what, is the vast majority is our equity. Okay. Right. Now it could be bonds as well, but it's not. I know this to be true. Okay. All right. So this is the performance of S&P before and after midterm elections. Since look, it's 80 years. It's 80 years. Like I said, I don't know how this turns out, but this is a penultimate bullish narrative this time of year. The CBOE 3-month implied correlation index. Look at that. Okay, Liz, this is the semis. This is why it's all about risk reward. Okay, anything that would cause us to go lower would be Armageddon, sort of, you know, bear market shit coming our way, as in, you know, way lower, back to the COVID lows, right? This would be a reasonable buying level based off of where we are. Okay. It's down 43.8%. Okay. I'm just saying, it's all about risk reward and what sort of appetite you have for that, right? Let's take a look what's going on in the Wall Street Journal today. NASDAQ slip, we know, bear market. Russian strikes have damaged Ukraine's electric grid. This is just... Thousands of federal office officials held investments in companies that agencies oversaw. And guess who's the worst of the worst? Anyways, Labor Department rule would add more gig workers to company payrolls. You know, I don't know how that's going to play out, but I think maybe there's common ground. I don't know. Yeah. Dismiss U.S. requests to delay. Look, I don't understand why the U.S. doesn't understand this construct, okay? A lot of the world hates us, okay? One of those peeps is Saudi Arabia. Okay? They love Trump, but they hate everybody else, okay? This is the fact. We are becoming more and more isolationist, and we will, because of our policies, and we will continue to be more isolationist going forward. Central banks, countries are disgusted with us, and they're going to say, hey, It's me against you. I still think we're going to see an unwind. I still think outside the United States, somewhere along the line, we're going to see some really big announcements in terms of divestiture. Okay. Out of stocks. Look, if everything costs money, intervention costs money, there's only so many places you're going to get it. Okay, so it's going to be a huge unwind going on. Okay, what a sleaze. Okay, that's all I have to say about him. Strong dollar will be the new earnings excuse. Yeah, it will be. 5 reasons not to be spooked by Apple this Halloween. Hedge founder Einhorn, value investing may be gone forever. I actually agree with this, to be honest with you. I do. I think just because of where we are in terms of the tech, what's going on. Okay. But don't forget, right? Tech can become a value trade. And that's what I'm looking at. Things that are getting down to the low double digits, single digits. Okay. That becomes a value trade for me on a risk reward basis, right? I mean, what are we talking? You know, low single digits, possibly, I guess, but not unlikely, right? What's going to happen is I can tell you we're going to see stock buybacks. The key for me right now is going to be divvies, whether they're going to cut divvies. Okay. Earnings season is going to be bad. It could be worse. Okay. This is just amazing. I love this company. How's it? Okay. Okay. 83% now, my friends, have baked it in. 81%. So the shock would be if they blink, if things really start to unwind, if they're quote unquote data dependent and things really start to unwind, right? Some of the data that's coming out is like South Beach says, the New York numbers in terms of retail are the worst on record. Okay, things like that will get their attention because quote unquote, in theory, they are data dependent. All right, so this is really the conundrum. Okay, I kept saying, wait, what? So this was shift for me. These are trading levels. Okay, so this was down into the 60s. That's always oversold. You buy. Okay, you could, and this is like you can't stay on the upside longer, but still, if you look at this stuff, a lot of this basically was comprised of like shits and bits, just multiple shits and bits. Okay, because if you look at Microsoft Lamb, I mean, these are pretty good chunky trades. This diamond, I can tell you, I mean, this hedge, I haven't seen. So this is basically in the money, basically hedge against a portfolio, right? So they think the diamond. So even Nugget got some stuff. So basically it's print after print after print after print of some of these smaller things. What do we got? GME being hyped. What do we got? I don't know why this is here, because this is a sale actually. Well, it's a buy. I don't know. Okay, what do we have from yesterday? All right, we've got NOEF. We have the Watchers Camp. This is still being accumulated. This has been going on for weeks, the CAMP. And then we have here, nothing major there, but here's the sales, right? AutoNation's been getting insider sales. That's a 58 million, and that is not tied to options, my friends. Okay, that's a big deal. And here's Earthstone, right? 10% owner. And these are 10% owners. Okay. So basically, you know, Warburg Pincus is rebalancing itself in terms of its investments. So what are we seeing? Okay. And Twins kind of intimated this. We're basically seeing offsets with tax harvesting, right? So if you have a gain on one thing, you want to basically book a loss on something else, right? So just saying. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, so we got two top dogs, 71% out of Morgan and 70% out of JP Morgan. This is what I really like to see. 66% isn't too bad, but FTV and Bose, right? And then you've got, you know, DocuSign. Sorry, 59%. I guess it's okay. I guess statistically, if we could be that way, right, we'd be happy. All right. It's all about risk management, my friends. All right. For FORG, okay, these are top dudes too. Okay, two of them, BTIG. I don't care who it is, they're 72% right. Canaccord, they're 74% right. Okay, I'll bite, right? Buy to hold. But the problem is, buying the nose price change really. Okay, this is the problem with this stuff, my friends. PXD got a downgrade from Citi to, I mean, look, come on, if you're gonna downgrade something for 2%, you might as just, it's a neutral, okay, fine, whatever, CNK, Cinemark Holdings. Anyways, we move on. All right, let's take a peek. One of the most volatile, persistently periods in generations. One of the most in history. This goes back to 1950, friends. Now, let us not forget options. That's all I have to say. These options create a lot more volatility because of the volume going through. And basically, don't forget, I mean, if you're buying puts and calls and they can't match it up, I mean, they're based on, how they're going to hedge that, right? Some of these market makers. So it's all out, it's all driven by computers, right? So if it gets to a certain point, right, then they have to sell, the equity and stuff like that. Anyways, and sometimes they front run and whatever. Anyways, so you can see here, right? Last time we were like this was, you got it, financial crisis of 2008. Okay, and then you have here, the dot-com bubble, right? Not good. 1 month later, 100% down, 100% 2 months down, and then 12 months out. Okay, this is a big deal. I mean, 100% going back to 1950. This is actually 1937, friends. Okay, I don't know about you. That covers a lot of territory, so that's notable. All right, so here we've got, but this isn't actually bad. Remember, we were at ones across the board on a lot of these. These were like really super dark green, right? We're not seeing that yet. And VIX obviously is. VIX is fascinating because it's really sticky above the 30, right? I just think that's fascinating. It's really sticky above 30. Okay. All right. What do we got? You can imagine. Sea of green. Semis is the worst. Volatility is the highest. Okay, that sums it up. And here you can see right here, tech is the worst. Energy is the best. Okay. 2-year, the worst. 30-year, the best. Okay. Okay, look at this. We're looking for it. Nigeria and Pakistan. Okay. Lumber the worst. Orange juice the tops. Well, you get the gist, right? And you can see here with this, right? The fund flows. Like I say, when we had a meaningful low in May, June, all these sectors were dark green, not white, not light green, dark green. So we're just not there. Okay. And this is why, any rallies, you can't, it's like speed dating. Okay. So what do? I basically write against it. If I'm in puts, that's just what I do intraday. If the market's rallying, I'll write against my puts. Okay. When I think the market's topped off, I'll cover my puts, right? And then I'll do a call right. So I'm creating synthetic spreads, call spreads and put spreads based off of the market range. Now, obviously, if the market starts to break out of that range, then guess what? You cover that right, either on the upside or the downside. I mean, it's really simple and it's really relaxing, right? Okay, money coming into SPY, not a lot. Money coming into Qs, not a lot. IWM. Okay, so let's talk. We know for a fact that the IWM and the semis have led on the downside. Ergo, if we're going to get any sort of meaningful bounce, the IWM and the semis are going to lead the rally higher. That's simple. Okay. That's how it works. Diamonds is nothing. So what I'm seeing is a shift to using the diamonds as a hedge. So this is relatively new, and I've been in diamond puts. I'm no longer in diamond puts because, it's not sexy and it just doesn't give me a lot of bang for my buck. So I got bored, right? So we had XLK flat and we see money coming into XLY. So that's Amazon, Tesla, right? That's, consumer discretionary, right? And then we have money coming out of energy still. And we have money coming out of XLF, the financials. I don't know what's going to happen with these financials, but it's going to be fascinating. I'm going to have a strangle on, actually. Poly October. It's really cheap to do the XLF. So we'll see how that plays out. Okay. XLV. Meh. Let's talk. All right. Once again, friends, this is a graph that shows you US stocks versus the world. Okay. This has been going on since the financial crisis of 2008. Okay. All right. Every party comes to an end. Right? Every party. But that takes years. My hypothesis is as follows. Once this is all done, maybe 2, 3, 4 years down the road, there's going to be a buying opportunity in Europe. Okay. That's going to be lasting for years. And money's going to come out of the US and go into Europe. I don't know when it's going to happen, but that's just a hypothesis. You know, I like to do that sort of stuff. That's just my hypothesis. Okay, so what do we got? Bonds. Yield curve is steepening, right? Rates are up across the board in Europe, right. And as expected, every day, Japan and Hong Kong down and Australia up. All right, let's take a peek. 5-year double top still in place. That should change rather quickly. This is the 2-5. This spread should consolidate for multiple months. Okay, I don't think we're going to get any sort of clarification on that. Okay, here's the 10-2, triple bottom. But you know the drill, right? When you consolidate in the lower quadrant or the upper quadrant for multiple periods of times, multiple months, the statistical probability of that breaking is high. That's just how it works. If you can't get a bounce off of this, break this downtrend line, the statistical probability is that we get a continuation of the inversion, and that gets to be ugly fugly. Okay, so here's the 530 inside candle. See how that plays out. Okay. Here you see the 10-year double bottom here. This is the price not yield. See how that is out. Here's China. Doesn't have the nerve to break this downtrend line. And here's Germany, rates are going up, and then we have to do the gilt. I have to pull up the gilts. As you can see. This has miles to go. This really has miles to go. I think they're setting up, twins. I think this is going to be an interesting setup. I think they're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater like they did it still feels like 2018, October to December. That's what I'm thinking right now in this earnings cycle. Okay. Look, Pepsi et al., they're going to be winners, and they're going to basically, anybody who does well is going to be rewarded, right? All right, so let's take a look here at the dollar. Look, you know the drill. You consolidate in the upper quadrant. I don't see how this doesn't go higher. And here's the Chinese. I don't see how that doesn't go higher. Here's cryptos. Who cares? All right, commodities. Take a pick here. So, like I say, a commodity super cycle is the penultimate rotation. Okay. This is my Super Bowl. This is the penultimate rotation. You get all this kind of volatility up and down and all around. Okay. So you have lumber going up 5%, London gas oil. I mean, this is the penultimate in terms of rotation. You cannot look at it in singularity. You have to look at it in totality. Okay. They're going to be the same way you have rip your face off bounces. You're going to have rip your face off declines. That's how it is. And that's okay. You basically, this is just look at this stick safe here. And this was the cycle low. Crazy. Natty gas, consolidated. I mean, I could say beer flagging, right? So we'll just keep an eye on this. This is the range right now. So we'll see how it plays out, right? And we're in the middle of the range. Okay, so you can't be aggressive one way or the other. Here's crude, right? Natty gas. So crude this is really interesting. Look at this. Okay. keep an eye on this. You know the drill. When this goes down, okay, you know what that means, right? That means that natty gas is starting to get its jiggy going on. And I think natty gas is going to start to get its jiggy going on, especially in the winter, as we get closer with the winter. Here's the crude, right? Okay. Well, I mean, this is you know the drill here. Basically, we have to pierce this double top. Otherwise, you get, and this is when Friday, I announced to everybody, you have to take by hedges, okay, with crude and energy names. You have to take hedges, okay, because commodities, you buy the drops, you sell the pops. Until it breaks out, this is just the top of the range, and you wait, and you basically put your hedges on. And this is how you're successful, okay? Because you always have something on as a hedge, okay? And right now, I'm not fully hedged, but I will, if let's say we break this 87.44, then I'll start to get more hedged, right? Gold, crude, you can see here, it actually bounced off of this pivot point, breakout level. Okay, and here's gold. It should sell off into the FOMC futures. What do we got? Okay, ALMO gets up slightly. Okay, others are down. FTSE. Okay. I did roll out my my EWU, added to it off of the news yesterday. Okay, and I just, you know, I got German puts on too. I don't know. It's sad. I mean, I'm just sad. DAX unable to reclaim and hold. There's a big rejection on the monthly. Okay, let's see if this pivot holds or not. If not, then obviously we have to. Okay. FAS wasn't able, failure, monthly. This is why I look at monthly charts, friends, is because it tells you FAS, failure, EFA, failure, FXI, failure. Well, anyways, you get the gist here. Here's KWeb, failure. EEM, I'll be honest with you. I didn't say anything about this, but I saw some institutions buying down here, and I said, damn, that's a mistake. There's just some calls go through. Ooh, no can do. I wouldn't be picking about them down here. Yes. Or maybe down here. Yes. I wouldn't be doing that right there on the break of the 78.6% Fed. Hell no, I won't go. CQQQ breaking down. Here's the money shot, guys. QQQ, CQQQ. Only two ways this happens. Market rallies, there's doesn't. Market stays still and there's some off. That's the only way that happens. Right? Right, Fane. I mean, what am I going to tell you? It broke the 61.8% fib. It should go down here. The only way this is now, this is a monthly, no question about it. Let's see if it reclaims. We got big earnings coming out. We'll see. Growth value, who cares? It's a growth value. Not looking good. Right? XOT. We're doing ETFs. Okay, this is holding up here. This is consolidation. Okay. I'm not doing anything with it right now because it either has to break this low or basically has to pop this top. Okay, but you know, I could buy some here, Delta stuff, and then basically I could do a strangle on it, weight it on the long side. Well, Dow Transport's double bottom. FedEx is the component here. You know, I'll be honest with you. This FedEx, let's talk about this. The only thing that saved FedEx was COVID. That's the only thing that saved FedEx. Guess what? We're going back to the way it should be. It's a poorly run company. Just saying. Plus, the global exposure is crazy, right? Here's XLF. Okay, so this is it, guys, gals, friends, peeps, peepettes. We've got a triple bottom here, right? This is a cluster of support, right? 29.39. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a strangle. Potentially bad news, good action sort of thing. So I'll do a weighted strangle on the long side, XLF. I'll see what it looks like in terms of delta. I mean, this one you can't do like October. You have to go farther out. I'll probably do leaps on it. Okay, I need time on that one. All right, XLV, this is really surprising to me. Okay, I do have some XLV puts on as hedges, but this is really surprising to me, this unwind. And the thing that really surprises me on the weekly, this looks like an H pattern. Okay, so anyways, XLK, well, barely hanging in. Okay. Just so you know, I apologize. Those in the room know that I'm going through some issues in my family. My son is home and he is a little bit vocal this morning. So just letting you know, right? And I do apologize, but yes and no, it is my life. And, you know, sometimes it kind of creeps in. Let's see what happens here. All right, so on XLK, we are getting to the risk reward thing. I prefer to buy it down here. Okay, it's well defined or closer to down here. Okay, it's another 5%, 3%.
Alrighty, Beth, I'm ready to pop on whatever you're.
Okie dokie.
Alrighty, guys, what's up? Morning. Let me just pop up the screen share here. We'll get going on some of these individual names. Here we go. So if you guys are coming in new to chat, new members, make sure to click on that Discord link that we did email to you. That link will be sent to your email. If you don't see it, it's probably in your junk mail. But if you're coming in from the free server, you do need to leave that server first and then click on that link. Otherwise, you won't be assigned the new roles so that you can see everything in the room. So that's first and foremost. Now, once you're in the chat, a couple areas to go to. I'm just going to go over them briefly. And we'll go over them in detail a little bit later when we do close down the YouTube stream. But when you're in chat, go to the new to chat information section, scroll to the very, very top and give it a read from top to bottom. Most important sections are risk reward. Of course, you need to understand how that works before trading. Otherwise, you won't be profitable. Give the summary of how this chat works a read. Give the how to read the alerts from an options equity perspective. The options rules that we use Monday to Thursday, as well as anyone with a small account and how to pick trades. And then you should have a pretty good understanding of what's going on in the room. Your market tickers on watch. A couple things that we're looking at today, guys. Tesla, ASML, mRNA, PEP, Hkd, and Ccj. So Tesla, ASML gapping up and sympathy with the market slightly. mRNA, Merck, Moderna to develop personalized cancer vaccine. Gapping up on that. PEP earnings beat, EPS and revs year-over-year growth, 8% 2022 guidance raised. Stocks gapping up on that. Hkd up on continuation after last day's push. CCJ, Cameco and Brookfield Renewable formed strategic partnership to acquire Westinghouse Electric Company, and we got a little bit of a gap down on that. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So first two we're looking at today, guys, are going to be Tesla and that ASML. So let's have a gander at those two. Let's do it right here. So Tesla obviously was extended to the downside, fill that gap yesterday. Basically consolidated for most of the day. Then obviously end of the day, it sold off there with the market. Let's see what we got in regards to support levels here. Okay, so pivot to the downside today, 218.93. This level is able to hold. You got room towards 224.32 to 233.37. Unable to hold, we go look for a continuation towards the 215.85 level to 212.20, and below that 207.58 on the downside on Tesla. Overall, going to be leaning more on the bearish neutral side of Tesla today. We'll see how much it can bounce, but it does look like it's going to, probably continue to roll over. Might get a retest of short-term EMA resistance, which will be around 224, 225 level, aka last day's high, before it does see continuation to the downside. So leaning more on the bearish neutral side there after a bounce this morning. Let's take a look at ASML. So a little bit of a gap up there. Let's see what it was. It is 9 points. All right, this should be good for levels, I think. 4 nines. But we'll see. No, we keep them. All right, so 409.21 pivot levels able to hold. We got room towards 413.54 to 422.60. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback towards 401.97 to 393.95 on the downside. Overall, in ASML, we'll be leaning on the bullish neutral side today if the pivot point can hold. Would have room to push back towards the upper end of the range from last day. Reclaims that 422.60 would be tested. So we'll see what happens in that regard. So that's Tesla, that is ASML. Let's take a look at the next two names out there. All right, next two, mRNA, Pepsi. All right, 128.10 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold 131.49 to 135.32 will be tested. Unable to hold 123.53 to 118.81 on the downside there. Overall, on mRNA, looking for continuation to the upside today. Looking for a move back towards the 50 MA, which is 135.93. So we'll see how high we can go. But nice little bounce so far, and yeah, I mean, it does look pretty good for continuation. So. Like in the chart, daily looks good off the lows, all that good stuff. Anyways, that's mRNA. Let's take a look at Pepsi. All right, Pepsi here. Oops. Pepsi pivot to the upside today, guys, is going to be the 167.01 level. Levels able to hold 168.65 to 170.18. Unable to hold 165.17 to 163.14 on the downside will be tested. Overall on Pepsi, going to be going or leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point is able to hold. So we're looking for a hold of that 167.01 level and a continuation push higher. So that is Pepsi. Let's take a look at the next two. Let's screenshot these. Last but not least. We got the Hkd and Ccj. Got off a pretty good trade on that Hkd yesterday. Some pretty good continuation today off the lows. Let's see where we got room to. It's the highest volume day in a while. Eh? Wow. Okay. That's interesting. That high. Okay, let's take a look at this intraday here. So pivot to the upside today right now is 54.43, levels able to hold 62.87, 67.97, and then room to 80.51, unable to hold 45.89 to 38.48. Going to be leaning on the bullish side of Hkd today, looking for a pop out the gate. We'll see how high it can go. And then if it holds up, consolidates in the afternoon, I think you can get a continued push to the upside. So we'll see what happens in that regard. Let's take a look at CCJ. So obviously gapping down after the proposed acquisition. Let's take a look at this thing intraday here. Yeah, okay. 22.67 pivot levels able to hold. We got room back towards 23.28 to 23.83. Unable to hold. Looking for continuation towards 21.89. That level breaks 21.22. Will be tested on the downside. Overall on CCJ, going to be leaning bearish. Looking for a continuation pull to the downside today. I think it goes to the bottom end of the range on the daily, and then we can see whether or not that level is going to hold. So that is Hkd and that is CCJ. All right, let's take a look at the spine thing. All right, 360.38 pivot levels able to hold. You got room towards 362.62 to 366.48. Unable to hold, we look for pullback towards 356.71 to 353.72 on the downside. Overall on SPY, going to be leaning on the right now, well, I guess bearish neutral side. If the pivot's unable to hold, we'll be looking for continuation of the downside today. It is, somewhat stair stepping to the downside. So we'll see what happens in that regard. So that's the market. Let's take a look at the rest of the FANG here. $139.49 pivot levels able to hold towards 141.07 to 142.47. Unable to hold 138.41 to 136.56 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning bearish as well if the pivot point is unable to hold this morning. So if it's able to reclaim that pivot, hold it, I think we can bounce. If unable to do so, obviously we'll look for a continued sell off on the downside. Let's see what happens in that regard. Amazon pivot downside today is going to be 112.59, able to hold from back towards 115.14 to the 118.79 spot. Unable to hold 110.38 to the 108.11. Testing the inverted head and shoulders on the hourly and the short-term time frame. Going to be leaning on the bearish side if the pivot point is unable to hold as well. There. So we'll see what happens in that regard. Let's take a look at Netflix. All right, Netflix 217.32 pivot levels able to hold 223.23. Unable to hold 210.31 on the downside, leaning bearish on Netflix. A pretty big relative weakness on it yesterday, and I think you're going to see continuation of that today to the downside. So that's what I'll be looking for there. Let's take a look at Meta. So pivot 128.56. Levels able to hold, bring back towards 130.60 to 132.60. Unable to hold 126.68. Be leaning on the bearish side of that as well today. Take a quick look at Google. $96.61 pivot, unable to hold towards 94.99, able to hold. We look for a pushback on Google into the 98.45 to 138 on the upside. Going to be leaning bearish on Google, looking for a retest at the bottom end range today if the pivot's unable to hold. Let's take a look at the VIX Qs and IWM real quick. It all depends on the pivots really today, guys. That's what I'm looking at. Pivot to the upside today on the VIX is going to be 33.95. If that's able to be reclaimed, 35.41, unable to hold, we look for at 32.61, that level breaks. 31.10 on the downside would be tested. Not leaning any particular direction, guys, but watching for direction on the market when that level is tested or crossed. So use the VIX. Typically play inverse to the SPY. Stay with the Qs. QQQ. $360.95 pivot. This level is unable to hold towards 356.11. Able to hold 367.80 will be tested on the upside. Overall on the Qs, Going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today if that pivot point cannot hold as well. Last but not least, guys, IWM. Let's have a gander at that. All right, IWM. $168.83, sorry, 168.63, able to be reclaimed, moving towards 171.34, unable to hold 164.25 on the downside. Going to be leading on the bearish neutral side today, looking for continuation lower, and that is IWM. So that's a SPY, that's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. Going to go ahead, pass it over to South Beach while I type up that pre-market action plan, and we will go from there. So South Beach, Freddie, it's all yours. And I'll talk to you guys in a little bit.
Okay, hey guys. Okay, so you hear me, right? Yeah. All right. So futures are up what, 10? I just like to know who's buying futures up 30 before the number. Like, what is that thinking? I really don't understand that, to be quite honest. Strange, right? So anyway, the number came in. We'll talk about it in a minute, but let's look at what the effect is so far in the bond market. Okay, so we have the 10-year at 395, which is within spitting distance of the highs that we've seen, right? I think we got over 4 for like a flash, but we're hovering at 5. The 2 years at 430. So the spread is what, about 40, a little less, more or less. So in that trading range that we've been discussing for a long time. Okay. And, you know, rates are pretty competitive with equities, right? You know, you're getting risk-free rate of return for a 1-year piece of paper is 430. That's not so terrible. Okay. And you don't have all the agita that you have with these equities. Okay, so here's your problem. Okay, we're looking at the rates over in London, and that place seems right now it's kind of sort of a hot mess. The 10-year is up 12 basis points at 456, so significantly higher than ours. Inflation is running really hot there, but the yield curve is, you know, kind of flat, but it's not inverted. 2 years at 417. 15 years at what, 5%, 20 years at 5.1, or 30 years 393, and theirs is 501. So there you see it, right? Rates in Germany up a bunch there too, 439. Remember, they started the year at a -50, but with 8% plus inflation, you know, the real rate are really probably more negative than ever, right? So that's that. Rates are up a bunch in Italy and France. Okay, so basically higher rates across the board. That's what we got this morning in the bond market. Okay, let's look at commodities. So higher rates, slower growth, less demand for oil, more or less, right? So oil's down about $1. 88. So since since OPEC did its thing, we kind of haven't moved a whole lot since then, right? I think it's basically flattish, right? Yeah, flattish since then. So they went up a lot on whatever it was, Friday, and we look like we've given back all those gains in the oil market since then. The natural gas is 470, 673. So we've discussed that, middle of a trading range, down some. Gold, silver, copper, don't care. Copper's trading range, nothing special. Moving to the low end of that range, which tells you that, you know, people think this recession scenario is more likely than not. Agricultural commodities down a little bit. Rice refuses to come in much. Cotton, is that a new low for cotton? Yes. So, you know, you see what's happening there. I'm surprised lumber's not a little lower, to be quite honest. Staples like oats are hanging in there better than others. That's commodities. Currency, this is what we have to pay attention to. Okay, so the dollar's mixed against North America. The yen is down again. Dollar's 146.72. That might be a new high. Yep, it is a new high against the yen. So that yen has gone from the end of the year, it was 115 yen to the dollar. Now it's 147. Think about that for a minute. That's a crazy number, guys. You know, I don't think I've ever seen that kind of move in my lifetime. And I've been following markets a really long time. All right, so therein lies the problem with the strong dollar for everybody other than us. But we'll see that show up, I think, in some earnings reports for sure. Okay, that strong dollar is going to hurt some margins. We'll see that, I think, like a sure thing almost. Chinese currency is down a little bit, 7.17 now to the dollar. The euro's 97 flat. The pound is 110 flat. And that's the rate situation, okay? I mean, the currency situation. Crypto, flat, flat, flat. You know, very little going on. Solana's down a little bit. Bitcoin's up a tinge. Ethereum's up 1%. Very boring market they have over there. Foreign markets, pretty quiet. FTSE's down 42, which is 0.5%. DAX is unchanged, more or less. Nikkei flat. China's up 1.5%. Hong Kong down 1%. Hong Kong's just a mess. And Taiwan is down just a tinge after getting absolutely wrecked yesterday.
On ROKU, Roku to launch new smart.
Okay, so that's the backdrop. Banks and Fed, we got 3 Fed governors speaking today. What can you say? Okay, China. So Xi came out this morning and talked about zero COVID, saying it works, it's based on science, lockdowns will continue, and be steadfast in this whole approach that they're doing. I just don't get it. I don't understand what's going on there. But does he not want to use the vaccine because it was made by the US? Is that the thinking? I mean, I just wish I knew what he was thinking. I mean, I just don't get it. But whatever, it is what it is. So that's China. Anything else out of China that I can think of? Not really. They have that October 17th, that conference starts. That's what, next week? And we'll see what's what when he steps onto the, steps out, and they have everybody aligned, and you'll see the top guys and his alliances and not, and we'll be able to tell how much power he has, okay, based on that. But make no mistake, he's the guy. All right, so you got China. Russia, what's going on there? We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's just move on from that. Crypto, we discussed. Currencies, we discussed. Mr. Market, yesterday we had, a lot of movement, right? We had that down opening, we had that massive rally, and we had the shit to bed at the end of the day. Okay, good volatility, good range. Hopefully that continues. As far as group rotation, drugs, consumer non-durables, and retail was strong. HMOs as well. And on the short side, you had high beta names, high PE tech, semis, oil and gas, gambling stocks, entertainment stocks, like that. Okay, so that was yesterday. All right. So let's see what we have today. 30-year fixed rate is up to 6.81%. I think a year ago, you probably could have gotten a mortgage at less than half of that. Okay, 86% refis down year over year, 86%, and new home buys are down 39% year over year. Okay, Bank of England spoke this morning. They may extend. There's dual reports. I don't know what's going to be. Is it going to be extended after October 14th? Is it not going to be extended past November 14th? Quite frankly, it depends what time you look at the news. It keeps changing. I don't know what the story is. I don't understand what's going on there. But the Brits is certainly, they have their hands full. So that's the BOE. Biden is saying he has a game plan in the event that Russia uses nukes. Okay, I just wonder, guys, who do you know, they had that bridge blown up, right, for Crimea. They had that Nord Stream pipeline blown up. No one takes, you know, says they did it. No one takes responsibility for those two situations. I mean, could it be that Russia blew them both up just to change the narrative a little bit? I wouldn't put it past Putin. That's, you know, kind of sort of, that's what I'm thinking. And then he changes his game plan, right? He's bombing the shit out of just everywhere because they really have nothing other than air supremacy. As far as on the ground, he's getting his ass kicked. He doesn't have the weapons to keep fighting that way. He's running out of ammunition. But he's got planes and he's got bombs and he's got missiles and whatnot, and that's what's going on. So NATO is saying this morning that we need to send anti-aircraft. So basically a ratcheting up of the situation, right? NATO wants to send anti-aircraft weapons and other advanced weapons to Ukraine, and it's just going to ratchet up. I know they need the bridge for resupply, MK, but they didn't blow up the whole bridge. They just blew up a piece. Listen, I don't know what's going on over there. I just see that it's being ratcheted up with heavier and more intense weaponry. And NATO wants to fight back and turn the dial a little bit to more advanced defense mechanisms, you know, weaponry. And now they're talking nukes. It's just a bad situation, okay? So I don't know what's what, guys, but I do know that the situation ain't getting any better, okay? Okay, that's one thing, what Twin said, you know, just give them the works and let them do their thing. I'm not questioning that, but obviously a ratcheting up of the situation, okay? Credit Suisse is under investigation again for the same thing they got fined $2.5 billion for, which is hiding assets. Earnings season is starting officially today with the Pepsi numbers. Okay, we have a bunch of names tomorrow and Friday. We'll talk about it in a minute. Intel's up a little bit on rumors of job cuts. Is it still up? No, it's up 4 cents, so not much. Biden's saying he doesn't think we're going into a recession, and if we do, it'll be very light. So this comment is coming out right before the midterms. I think Biden has absolutely zero credibility. I think Jamie Dimon has a little bit better of an opinion than the president does on recession. And the recession, you know, Biden's going to try to sugarcoat it. So I think that comment is just like, why bother? Hedge funds, stock picking. These stock picking geniuses don't look like geniuses. There was an article in, I think it was Bloomberg about it. Lone Pine down 42%, Tiger Global down 52%, Pelham down 32%. So these hedge funds are just actually worse than the market by a lot because their portfolio is a lot more aggressive. Einhorn's saying value investing may never come back. Einhorn's track record over the last decade is shit. He's probably got another bad year on his books, and he's saying, well, what I do doesn't work anymore. Maybe what he does, maybe he doesn't work anymore. I think that's more likely than value investing is never going to come back. I think that's a stupid comment. Let's talk about Saudi Arabia. So Biden is discussing how to penalize Saudi Arabia, punish them for cutting output and aligning with Russia. So when you look at these CPIs and PPIs and all this other shit that we look at for inflation, what you're really seeing is, you know, to a large extent, a lot of it's based on energy. So who are the main producers of energy, right? We have Saudi Arabia, who obviously the US is kind of in a bit of a spat with, right? We have Russia, we're in a big spat with. We have Iran, we have Venezuela that we're trying to chum up with. And yet we do nothing. That's just really poor leadership, guys. Okay, really poor leadership. mostly Biden's fault because things have gotten out of hand, but you can't say Trump didn't get involved and Bush's didn't do what they needed to do. And it's just a mess and we need to address it. And every day that goes by that we don't address it, it'll get worse. And it's not just for the US, it's for our allies. You know, you leave them high and dry, they're not going to be your allies for long. So, you know, whether it's Saudi Arabia or whether it's Great Britain or whatever, you know, you can't just be thinking about yourself all the time. That's what democracy is, okay? And that's what alliances and allies are all about, okay? So that's that. PPI came in 8.5 versus 8.4 year over year, month over month, 0.4 versus 0.2. And now it looks like we're going to get a down goes Fraser moment in the S&Ps. About to turn red, okay? Stephanie Link just commented, I think her comments surmising the situation are really good. Inflation is high. The Fed is going to stay aggressive. Rates will stay higher for longer. And we don't know what the effects will be because most of these raises have a lag effect. So buckle up was her comment. And I echo what she said verbatim. Okay, these are really smart comments from a really smart girl. And I think she really surmised it pretty good. Okay, so that's that. Let's move on to individual situation. Pepsi's numbers were fantastic. There was a little piece out, and I think it was CNBC saying shrinkage works. They are shrinking their packaging, and they're able to pass along the increases in expenses to people. But remember something. I mean, look, the Frito-Lay division did good, and you can't say Frito-Lay, you know, potato chips are like a consumer staple, but I mean, America's pretty hooked on Frito-Lay stuff because they make great stuff and it's delicious and whatnot. I'm just curious if other companies can pass along these increases quite as effectively as Pepsi has. You can't shrink the size of a TV set, you know what I mean? And you don't actually need a TV set. You can put it off for 6 months, you can put it off a year, you can put it off 2 years. So we'll see how this Pepsi number transcends to the rest of the country. And also, they don't really have that dollar problem that a lot of the currency issue that a lot of our exporters have. So we'll see how that works when the numbers come out in earnest, really starting tomorrow and Friday that we see a lot of numbers. So we'll see what's what with that. Biogene top line, BGNE had a positive news. KNBE is getting taken over by Vista Equity at 24.90. I thought that was a pretty low number, quite frankly. Intel, I told you about the job cuts. CANO and Loco have special dividends, 50 cents and $1.50 respectively. AUTL is licensing technology to Myrna. All right, RCKT had big insider buying. Myrna and Merck is the news for the day. A joint JV to develop and commercialize personalized cancer vaccines. This could be massive, right? And it's showing on Myrna's action today. On the negative side, we had PHG, which missed on the revenue side. OMI lowers guidance. CCJ did a secondary, and it's down, what, 3 here? I think it's lower than the price already. After the close, nothing in earnings, but tomorrow we have BlackRock, Delta, Domino's, Fastenal, Taiwan Semi, which should be really interesting, WBA, and Progressive. Okay, so those are the things that come out mañana. All right, other than that, what do we have? As far as research, we had, you know, it's the same every day, guys. These guys come out, reiterate the buy, and lower the target. And I'm looking at some of these things, and I'm just blown away at the targets that they had. Here's a perfect Boeing. Credit Suisse has a sell with a 98 target, and Susquehanna has a buy with 192 target. 100-point difference in a stock like Boeing. That's just crazy. One of these guys is a dope. Okay, it's probably both of them, right? It probably stays here at $1.30, but it's a little hard to believe. Piper likes this Biohaven situation. Qualcomm got a positive mention at JP Morgan. They raised the target from 185 to 190. Eastman Chemical, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Look at this chart. Reiterate overweight, reduce the target from 165 to 115, stock 72. And if you look at the chart, okay, on EMN, look, this is just like a vanilla company, all right? Just massively destroyed, 50%. That's really the story of the stock market. I mean, stocks have just gotten absolutely crushed. And Eastman is as vanilla as they get. I mean, I'm not talking Twillo or FIVN. Eastman Chemical is, a middle of the road commodity company. So a lot of damage, a lot of pain, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, guys, hopefully we'll have the volatility we had the other day and we can capitalize on it. And, you don't have to, with this kind of volatility, don't get too big, because if you catch it wrong, you can be in a lot of pain. All right, so just be careful. Spartan, it's all yours.
All righty, thank you, South Beach, guys. Morning, what's going on? What's up? So if you guys are new to chat and haven't done so, make sure to click on that Discord link that's emailed to you. We'll go through the new to chat information section stuff in a little bit. When we close down the YouTube stream, we'll just rip through all the charts that we did this morning. So pre-market tickers on watch, a couple different things. If you guys are watching the YouTube stream, you can simply just pause it and read the typed up action plan here. So there's that, all this. You can see all the charts that are posted, of course. And then we can go to the options area, and you got the same thing on the option side, just a reiteration of the levels, and then obviously some puts or calls that would make sense at certain points. Yeah, so that's all that. Pre-market tickers on watch. A couple things we're looking at today: Tesla, ASML, mRNA, PEP, HKD, CCJ. Tesla, ASML gapping up, or we're in sympathy with the market. Now they're gapping back down. mRNA, Moderna, Merck, Moderna to develop personalized cancer vaccine, gapping up nicely on that. Pepsi, earnings beat, EPS and revs, year over growth 8%, 2022 guidance raised, stocks gapping up. HKD up on continuation from last day's move. CCJ, Cameco and Brookfield Renewable form strategic partnership to acquire Westinghouse Electric Company. Stocks gapping down on that. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. First two we're looking at today, guys, going to be Tesla and ASML. Let's have a gander. All right, so Tesla, ASML. Tesla, guys, 218.80, so 218.93 pivot to the downside today. Levels unable to hold 218 to 85 will be tested. That level breaks 212.20. Able to hold 224.32 to 233.47 on the upside. Overall on Tesla, going to be leaning bearish, neutral, looking for a continuation lower if that pivot point is unable to hold. So that's Tesla, ASML. One was 409. Sorry, 409.22. There we go. 409.21. Pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold 413.54. That level breaks. 422.60 will be tested. Unable to hold 401.97 to 395. Sorry, 393.95 on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning bearish, neutral if that pivot point cannot hold, which looks like it's not going to be able to hold right now. Let's take a look at the next two names, Moderna and Pepsi. mRNA, PEP. Beautiful move on mRNA, obviously, today, guys. mRNA pivot to the upside today is the 128 spot. Room towards 131.49, 135.32, 143.33 next resistance. Unable to hold 123.53 to 118.81, leaning bullish there. Pepsi pivot to the upside today is 167.01, level holds 168.65 to 170.18. Unable to hold 165.17 to 163.14. Great earnings, solid guidance, very impressive. HKD pivot to the upside today is going to be the 54.43 spot. Level hold 62.87 to 67.97. Unable to hold 45.89 to 38.48 on the downside. Overall leaning bullish, neutral there. Let's take a look at CCJ. CCJ pivot 22.67 level holds. room towards 60 or 23.28 to 23.83, unable to hold 21.89 to 21.22, leaning bearish neutral on that. So that is the individual names. Take a look at the SPY and the FANG real quick, guys. SPY pivot. Let's see here what we got. So SPY 368.31 pivot to the upside today, or downside, I should say. Downside today. This level is unable to hold. Lower into the 356.71 support. Breaks, you see the 353.72 tested. Pivot holds, room higher into the 362.62 resistance. Breaks, you see the 366.48 tested. Right now, I'm going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side of the market right now, looking for continuation lower if that pivot point is unable to hold. So that is the SPY. Let's take a look at the rest of the FANG here. I'm just going to post this stuff. There we go. That's this. And okay, let's look at the rest of the FANG. All right, Apple guys, 139.49 pivot, unable to hold towards 138.41 and 136.56. Able to hold 141.07 to the 142.47 on the upside will be tested. Overall on Apple leaning bearish neutral, looking for a continuation pull to the downside today if that pivot point is unable to hold. Let's take a look at Amazon here. Amazon pivot downside today is going to be the 122.59, unable to hold 110.38, 108, 11, able to hold 115.44. 115.14 on the upside. Overall leaning bearish neutral. They're looking for continuation lower if pivot cannot hold. Netflix pivot 217.32 pivot holds towards 223.23, unable to hold 210.31. Will be tested on the downside leaning bearish neutral there if pivot is unable to hold as well. Let's take a look at Meta. Meta pivot to the downside today is going to be the 128.56 levels able to hold, room towards 132.60, unable to hold 126.98 on the downside leaning bearish neutral there. Let's take a look at Google. Google pivot downside today is going to be the 96.61 levels, unable to hold 94.99, able to hold 98.45 to 138 on the upside, leaning on the bearish neutral there as well. Let's take a look at the VIX Qs and IWM. VIX pivot to the upside today is going to be the 33.95 spot level holds, 35.41, unable to hold 32.61 to 31.10 on the downside, leaning no direction, but watching the VIX for direction on the market, of course, as usual. QQQs pivot to the downside today, 260.95, unable to hold, room towards 256.11, able to hold 267.80 on the upside, leaning on the bearish neutral side there as well. IWM, last but not least, we have the 168.63 spot, unable to hold 164.25, able to hold 171.34 on the upside. So we'll see what happens today. Should be a day with some high volatility. You know, we'll see if we get a big amount of rain. Should be really good trading in that regard. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for watching the YouTube stream, guys. We do this every single Wednesday. We'll see you next week. Any questions, you